I wanted to talk about global citizenship. The global citizen is the original cosmopolitan. That's what cosmopolitan means. Everybody's talking about the Arab Spring, but I'm proud to say that we Latinos did it first. In 2008, Oscar Morales, an engineer in the coastal Colombian town of Barranquilla, founded a Facebook page called 1 Million Voices Against the FARC out of frustration with the lack of resolution to a long-standing conflict. And 1 month later to the day, the 4th of February 2008, you had 200 million people marching simultaneously in 193 cities around the world, all chanting "No más FARC, no more FARC." And that, for me personally, I mean, I'm a specialist in Latin America, is a paradigm example of citizen empowerment and the idea of global governance basically being turned on its head. In the 1990s, the idea of global governance emerged as something that we all wanted, became sort of a moral ideal. And at the time, it was viewed as through supranational organizations like the UN, the International Criminal Court. And the report by the 1995 Canadian Commission on Global Governance made some recommendations. And one of the things that they wanted to see implemented was a civil society congress, where you had a place where individual citizens from around the world could sort of supersede their governmental institutions and have their voices heard. Of course, in retrospect, it's a rather silly idea, because the whole idea of a civil society congress is sort of eo ipso by its own very definition, anti-institutional. So nowadays, what I want to say is that now the internet and social media like Twitter and Facebook are the civil society congress that was dreamt about in 1995. And the source of this new empowerment is something that's near and dear to my heart, is the nexus between compatriots within a country that witness what is going on with their expat diaspora who are overseas. And that is, of course, my case. I'm Venezuelan. My country is now under a lot of censorship. A lot of the mainstream media has either been shut down or is under severe censorship. And people are now being, as a result of a new law passed in December 2010, individual tweeters are being thrown in prison for complaining about the subway system. So what has happened is that the locals now hide they still give access to content, but they hide their meaning. And it is up to us sort of overseas to sort of spread the information and get it out there and interpret it and contextualize it. And to get the message out. They are the witnesses, and we are the dissemination and contextualization mechanism. And this creates for us a moral duty, because it's so easy to do. All you need to do is sort of retweet, like, post a link. And it creates a new moral duty that has a very long philosophical history, actually. Stoicism argued that the individual citizen had an obligation not just to your local city, but to participate in world affairs. In 1795, I mean, we think we've thought of it all, but Immanuel Kant argued in Perpetual Peace that about a jus cosmopoliticum, the cosmopolitan law, the law of global citizenship, that because we share the same planet, we have an obligation of mutual care. The contemporary movement of cosmopolitanism, which one of my mentors was one of the founders of, is the idea that if our actions, through our actions or inaction, we produce a harm to someone somewhere else, anywhere else, and we can ameliorate that harm, or we can improve their lives without a heavy burden on ourselves, we have a duty to do that. So, for instance, we buy fair trade, we try and avoid products made with child labor, we don't buy blood diamonds, we try and reduce our carbon footprint. And now we also sort of like, tweet, and retweet. And the fact that my point is that the access to the internet and social media has now given us the ability to connect local dynamics with the global community, and brought us an understanding of these issues and of our interconnectivity and how we can influence the lives of millions of people somewhere else, and improve the lives of our nation, our homeland. Even if you've left the country, you're no longer in exile. You, in fact, have even more power now. This has created a new moral duty for us to be a global citizen, to spread the word, to get involved, and especially because it's so easy to do. And we can see with the spectacular results, whether it's the 1 Million Voices Against the FARC or the Arab Spring. So in conclusion, what I want to say is that we must take this duty seriously, because if we don't do something we could so easily have done, we are contributing to the harm done to our compatriots, our nation, and ultimately our world. And that really is no longer an option because we are all cosmopolitans now.